thank you very much for joining us here on Times Now. This is Blueprint Explosive Exclusive, and I am Heena Gambhir. Viewers, the world is anxiously waiting for the final investigation report on tragic crash of Air India flight AI-171. Tomorrow is the first anniversary of the tragedy that shook the nation and the entire world. As per International Civil Aviation Organization's Annex 13 standards, accident investigation authorities are expected to publish a final report within 12 months of an accident. Till now, the report has not been released. Some reports are suggesting that it might get delayed, while sources in the government have told Times Now that the report is expected to be released tomorrow. Let's take you back to June 12, 2025. It was a Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner operating from Ahmedabad to London. Just 32 seconds after takeoff, the plane suddenly crashed. That crash claimed 260 lives, including passengers, crew members, and people on the ground. Only one passenger miraculously survived. It was one of the deadliest aviation accidents in Indian aviation history. Since the crash last year, some in Western media relentlessly tried to put the blame on the pilot. A lot of media reports emerged saying that the crash was intentional. There wasn't any technical issue. An Italian report, in fact, literally gave clean chit to Boeing, saying that pilot turned off the fuel switches. And this caused immense amount of distress to the family of the pilots who lost their lives in this crash. The pilot body, Federation of Indian Pilots, had condemned foreign media for targeting the Indian pilots relentlessly. They called it propaganda. Viewers, when the prelim report came out, a month after the tragedy, we got the answer to one question. What led to the crash? The report said fuel control switches transition from run to cut-off position one after the other with a gap of 1 second. And this cuts up fuel supply to engines. Engines lost power. One pilot noticed the switches were at cut-off position and asked the other, why did he do it? The other pilot denied it. The pilots tried to turn these switches on, but it was too late. The report, however, did not tell us what made the fuel switches transition. How did the switches which control the flow of jet fuel to the engines transition? The AI-171 investigation report will have global ramifications. It is expected to tell us, was it human action, mechanical failure, or some electronic malfunction? The final report should answer these key questions that remain unanswered. Now, viewers, 1 year after the AI-171 crash, the questions over the cause continue, but the process of support and compensation is still underway. In a statement, Air India has said that 96% of the affected families have received interim financial aid, with 25 lakh as interim compensation being disbursed. Airline also says there is no deadline for families to accept compensation offers. Tata Group has released 1 crore ex gratia to 91% of affected families, while belongings of 139 out of 187 victims have been returned. Of the 25 digital devices recovered, 16 have also been handed over after examination. But viewers, the question really is that whether the report, the final report, is going to come out tomorrow or not. Will the grieving families finally get answers? It's been 1 year already. 260 innocent lives were lost. Questions still remain unanswered as to what really was the reason behind this fatal crash. Let's welcome our guests who are joining us on the broadcast this evening. We have with us Dr. Sumit Suseelan, Chairman, Divine Air. We also have with us Sanjay Lazar, aviation expert, and also joining us is Manmat Kumar, who is former Captain Air India. Good evening to all of you, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us here on Times Now. Sanjay Lazar, to you first. I mean, you know, the world is eagerly waiting for this report to come out tomorrow. But given how complicated this entire case really is, are you expecting a complete report given the track record of AAIB, or are you expecting some kind of a preliminary, you know, another rather status update on what has happened so far? Because the government is absolutely silent on this.
Good evening, Heena. Thank you for having me on your show. Um, no, I've not expected a report for the last few months because going by the developments that we've witnessed in the global market, as well as, certain leaks that have come about over the past weeks and months, I never expected a final report. I do expect that sometime after closure of office tomorrow, a interim report will be released. Remember, India is a contracting state under ICAO. Therefore, under Annexure 13, we are bound to give a preliminary report in 30 days. And if possible, it is desirable that a final report comes out in 12 months. If not, then every anniversary, they're supposed to come out with a preliminary addendum. I do believe that will happen sometime tomorrow evening because they'll allow families to grieve all of tomorrow rather than sensationalize it by releasing a report. It's also very critical that it will probably release just in time for daybreak in the United States, which is, of course, one of the governing bodies which is party to this inquiry, because the NTSB and the FAA and the manufacturer, both of the engine and the aircraft, will be part. No, I don't, and I do believe that we've not made enough of headway. There's so much of confusion that we see. I do believe a lot of the families need some closure. We need answers, whatever it be. We are being looked at really, really in a poor light globally.
Absolutely. And Dr. Sumit Suseelan, the track record, like I said, is not very good. There are so many accidents, incidents that have taken place, serious incidents being investigated by AAIB. We still do not know the causes behind so many of them. So I want to understand from you, who is going to respond to the grieving families who are still looking for answers? There are people around the world who are waiting to find out what really happened in those 32 seconds. I mean, don't you think the government should come out and tell us openly what really happened? Why is there so much of mystery around it? Why status update is also not being provided?
We have to understand this thing. There are a group of people who want to put all the blames on pilots. Whereas the past 1 year, we had seen there are multiple similar incidents happened for the fuel cutoff switch. There are multiple airlines that complained the same thing. The Boeing had addressed it. Yes, there is some problem going on with the switches, but still there are some people especially from US, trying to put the blames on our Indian pilots and want to get a clear chit for Boeing. What is the pressure on Indian government? Definitely, there is some pressure on Indian government because the Boeing manufacturers are Americans and they don't want to spoil any relationship. Tomorrow, I'm not expecting any good, feedback or any report coming from the group because as there's a provision that every year, every anniversary, they can come up with a report. So I think this another more delay because from past a year, this is not the only accident we had seen. There are multiple accidents happened, but not a single report we had seen so far. So I think definitely they have to buckle up now because definitely public are waiting to have a report every now and then. People are filing an RTI to check what is the status of the last crash which happened.
But Captain Manat Kumar, this chalta hai attitude can't really go on for long. If there have been similar incidents after this accident as well, then it is even more important for AAIB to expedite the investigation. Remember, after the preliminary report was released, the excerpt of the conversation between two pilots that was mentioned in the report, that gave rise to, too many speculations and too many conspiracy theories.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to tell you, few of my friends who are flying in US with the green card or US citizen, Indian origin, they are being looked down upon. Whenever there's any discussion of any incidents, they refer it to this accident that the pilot was insane, he was in depression. The Indian pilots are of not good quality. The training and the system and the DGCA, the inspection, they are not done at a great good professional level. So Indian aviation has taken a real hit, especially the pilots and their status. You command some kind of status. Good quality technical people. No, we don't anymore. and they keep referring to such incidents. They look up us on very really downside. And when last year when the accident happened, we had already spoken. Not that I'm a great expert. I'm talking about previous experiences because I've flown this aircraft. I was there for about 20 years in Air India. So what I mean to say is I've seen many accidents, many of the accidents. We always keep waiting for the final reports. We always get interim reports. We always get stuck with diplomatic wordings, diplomatic legal wordings. Some say it has to come out in 30 days. Then some says it should be in 12 months. When the 12 months comes, there's some kind of loophole. They get through that loophole and there's no more reports. We keep crying, and then as the time goes on, we all move on. So this is the attitude, and why India is bowing down to this? Why are they bowing down to the US? I do not know. What is the political pressure? How there are so many aircrafts in line to be brought. Boeing. There is a big order from Air India. They're still waiting. There's a line of Airbus and Boeing orders.
Right.
They're waiting to pick them up. So there is millions and billions of dollars in stake, and Boeing always plays a part when some they're not going to accept their fault. I'm sure about it.
Right.
And then the pilot groups.
That's a pertinent point that you have raised, because it has clearly impacted the Indian aviation, and also the insight that you gave us that Indian pilots in the US specifically are looked down upon. Stay on with us, gentlemen. I am also joined on the broadcast this evening by Saud Rafiq Memon. He is the brother of Syed Javed Ali, who was in this particular aircraft that perished. Saud Rafiq Memon, हमसे बात करने के लिए बहुत शुक्रिया. आपसे मैं जानना चाहूंगी, सबसे पहले बताइए कि क्या हुआ था आपके परिवार से? शायद आपके भाई थे इस एयरक्राफ्ट में जो क्रैश हो गया था 12 जून को पिछले साल. बताइए थोड़ा सा कि क्या हुआ था एग्जैक्टली.
मैं कॉलेज में था. 12 तारीख की सुबह कॉलेज थी मेरी. हम लोग ने भाई को एयरपोर्ट पे छोड़ के उसके बाद मैं कॉलेज आ गया. मेरा 11 बजे का कॉलेज था, तो फिर मैं 11 बजे से 1 बजे तक कॉलेज में था. मेरा ब्रेक होता है 2 बजे. मैं 1:30 बजे मेरे को फोन आया मकसूद पटेल का फोन आया मेरे को. मेरे अंकल एक कॉलोनी में रहते
जी.
तो 2 मिनट.
नहीं, हमें आपकी आवाज क्लियर आ रही है.
मकसूद क्लियर आ रहा है? वीडियो क्लियर आ रहा है?
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. आप बताएं कि कैसे आपको पता चला क्रैश के बारे में, क्या हुआ था?
मेरे अंकल थे, कॉलोनी में रहते, स्कॉटर्स कॉलोनी हमारे इधर एरिया है. उधर मेरे को कॉल आते क्या, मैंने कम से कम 12 कॉल उनके कट किया. फिर मैंने टीचर परमिशन लेके उनको तुरंत कॉल किया. तो फिर उन्होंने पूछे कि तेरे फैमिली वाले भी जाने वाले थे ना अहमदाबाद से लंदन? तो फिर मैं बोला हाँ. तो बोले नाम कंफर्म कर. तो नाम कंफर्म किया तो मेरे को मालूम पड़ा कि उसमें हमारे परिवार वाले थे. तो मैंने पहले मेरी अम्मी को बताया, मतलब मेरी अम्मी को, फिर मेरे भाई को बताया, फिर मेरे मामा को बताया मैंने.
आपके परिवार से कितने लोग थे? सिर्फ आपके भाई थे उस प्लेन में कि और भी लोग थे?
नहीं 242 पैसेंजर थे उसमें. 241 की डेथ हुई है और एक जन बचा है.
मैं पूछ रही हूँ आपके परिवार से उस प्लेन में कितने लोग थे? सिर्फ आपके भाई थे कि आपके परिवार से और भी लोग थे?
उनकी पूरी फैमिली थी भाई की, मेरी 4 जन.
ओह, पूरी फैमिली थी उनकी. कितनी उम्र थी उनकी?
उनकी कुछ एज रहेगी 36-37 के अराउंड कुछ एज रहेगी.
और उनके वाइफ और बच्चे थे?
हाँ, वाइफ और बच्चे थे, 2 बच्चे थे.
बच्चों की क्या उम्र थी?
बच्चा एक 6 साल की थी बच्ची थी और एक 12 साल का बेटा था.
जी. 1 साल हो गया है, अभी तक रिपोर्ट नहीं आई है. आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे?
मैं ये बोलना चाहूंगा, रिपोर्ट किस वजह से नहीं आई है? कुछ पॉलिटिकल इश्यू है या कुछ क्या है? कुछ प्रॉब्लम समझ में नहीं आ रही है इधर. मेरे को लगता है पॉलिटिकल इश्यू है, मेरे को लगता है.
अच्छा, क्या आप पे भी किसी तरीके का कोई कॉम्पेंसेशन को लेके दबाव बनाया गया? क्योंकि कॉम्पेंसेशन को लेकर भी प्रेशर की बात कई विक्टिम्स के फैमिलीज ने करी है सामने आके.
नहीं, हम लोग को कुछ फोन नहीं आया, ना कुछ कोई बोला है.
कॉम्पेंसेशन और आपके जो फैमिली मेंबर्स के बिलोंगिंग्स थे, उनका सामान था, क्या आपको वो हैंड ओवर किया जा चुका है?
2 बैग आया था पर उसके अंदर कुछ मालूम नहीं, हम लोग खोले तो कुछ मिला नहीं 2 बैग के अंदर उसमें से.
अच्छा,
पूरे चपटे हो गए थे 2 बैगों. जी.
अभी जैसे कल पूरा 1 साल हो जाएगा, तो आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे सरकार से, क्योंकि सभी लोग इंतजार कर रहे हैं, जानना चाहते हैं कि दरअसल हुआ क्या था। इस तरह की भी खबरें आ रही हैं वेस्टर्न मीडिया में खास करके कि पायलट की गलती थी। तो जो इस तरह की खबरें जब आप पढ़ते हैं, सुनते हैं, आपके मन में क्या बीतती है?
मेरे मन में ये बीतती है कि सरकार को पायलट से क्या लेना देना। पायलट का काम है, पायलट प्लेन उड़ाएगा ना। पायलट की गलती होती नहीं है। जो जो इश्यू रहता है, जब पायलट जब रनवे पे रहता है, उसमें कुछ चेक करते हो लोग, फ्यूल चेक करते हैं, टेक्निक चेक करते हैं, उसमें कुछ प्रॉब्लम हुई होगी। पायलट की कुछ गलती नहीं है इसके अंदर। और सरकार से ये बोलना चाहूंगा मैं कि सरकार जल्द से जल्द इसके ऊपर कार्रवाई करे। जो मुजरिम है उसको, क्योंकि हमारे को, हमारे घर वालों को ऐसा फील ही नहीं होता है कि हमारा भाई चला गया है दुनिया से।
कैसा रहा ये जो एक पूरा साल बीता, उनकी पूरा परिवार जो था इस प्लेन में था जो क्रैश हो गया?
एक साल हो गया, पर जब अभी क्या बोलेगा, अभी फैमिली वालों को थोड़ा याद नहीं है कि हम लोग ने बुला दिया। मेरी नानी को खास करके मेरी नानी को याद नहीं है कि चंटू भाई चले गए दुनिया से। बूढ़े हो गए, ओल्ड होता है ना, 90 साल 90 उम्र है उनकी।
क्या वो आपके इकलौते भाई थे कि और भी भाई है, भाई बहन है?
नहीं, एक भाई और 2 बहन अभी है।
जी, थैंक यू सऊद रफीक मेनन हमसे बात करने के लिए। एंड कैप्टन अमित सिंह is also joining us on the broadcast right now. Captain Amit Singh, we were just speaking with the brother of one of the victims of this plane crash, and 4 members of his family died in this particular plane crash. And everyone's just looking forward to a final report tomorrow. What are your thoughts? Are you expecting a final report given the kind of statements that have come out over the last few weeks specifically?
Well, the Honorable Minister has made a statement that the final report will come out in time. But before the final report, a lot of consultation happens between the stakeholders. I don't believe that consultation has happened. So I don't expect a final report tomorrow. However, if a final report doesn't come out, they're supposed to give out an interim statement, not an interim report. So that interim statement can supplement certain facts or data. So it will be kind of a preliminary report with more data. So there won't be any analysis or something except for more data if they feel like. Otherwise, they'll just give a statement that the report is delayed and we are expecting it another few weeks or whatever. So that is the status, what I see.
Okay. The prelim report gave birth to several conspiracy theories, and that's where, this theory that it was probably a pilot error started because of the excerpt of the conversation that was put in the report. Are you expecting that AIB will perhaps give more clarity on that particular aspect, even if a complete report is now put out? And do you believe the investigation has been fair?
See, the preliminary report, you cannot fault the preliminary report in a lot of areas because it has given enough clues. However, it has led the ordinary reader to believe that it was a pilot error or the pilot cut off the fuel switches by placing the cockpit voice excerpt just after the fuel control switches. I will give you 4 reasons which clearly say that it was not a pilot fault. The preliminary report clearly quotes the data source as the EFR for every data mentioned, like the speeds that they mention and everything. The takeoff speeds as per EFR, which is a flight recorder. But for the critical statement, maximum recorded speed was 180 knots. There is no data source. And it says 180 knots. Recorded, right? So after that, the fuel control switches were cut off. The aircraft was still accelerating. It would have gone beyond 180. So that is why they said recorded, because something happened that the good data stopped coming. That is the last source. Second is your cockpit voice conversation. They could have easily said that the captain said, "Why did you cut off?" Or the co-pilot said, "Why did you cut off?" Or the pilot said, "I did not." Why could they not identify the person who's speaking? Because when an electrical emergency happens and the RAT is supplying power, all the individual channels drop off, like the captain's channel, co-pilot, and it is the only recording the area mic which is placed in between. It records all the voices. Now you need a voice sample analysis to determine who's speaking. So at that time, they could not do a voice sample analysis. Why they said, why did you cut off? So this also points towards the electrical fault. Third is the CBR or the black box, which was severely burnt, the rear one.
Right.
The front one, which went into the fire, survived with black soot on it. The rear one, which did not go into the fire, melted without a soot. It had gray deposits, which happens after a severe short circuit.
Right.
And lastly, it is the landing gear.
Yes.
They say the landing gear lever was down. So they quote the flap position. The flap position was 5 as per EFR. And they show the lever at 5. But for the landing gear, they do not say as per EFR. They say landing gear down.
Yes.
Why? Because when the aircraft takes off,
Right.
the wheels are pointing up. When you select the lever down,
Right.
Up,
Right.
the wheels point down.
Right.
And the later video images show that the wheels
Right.
are pointing down. And the last bit is
Yes. Right. I
the
think
hydraulic.
Yeah, I think there's some problem with the audio, but we understood the point that you're making, and clearly we are hoping that we'll get clarity on a number of issues, number of questions that still remain unanswered. Thank you very much, all of you gentlemen, for joining us here on the show this evening.